day 7 and day 8 and day 9 today. So this is number 7. Um, this is my 30-day world, in case you guys haven't been following. And what it is it's 30 days of us discussing our homebrew worlds and various questions about that. Which, if you know me or you've been following my channel recently, I've been doing a little bit more world building stuff on my channel um, leading into this. I didn't even know this was going on and had been talking about world building stuff. So this is fantastic because I'm using this opportunity to not fully, to further flesh out my world. So today's question is, how common are heroes and adventurers in your world? Um, this is a really good question because I think this can shape a world drastically. If they're very common, you might have a lot of one. It takes away the specialness of being a hero or adventurer, but it also should make things like gear and stuff like that really easy to come by. But they have to have a purpose if there's a lot of them. What is their purpose? If you don't have very many, now they're more special, but in theory, gear should be more difficult. For example, in Tim and James's setting of Dragon Grin, because heroes and adventurers are so rare, it almost makes me wonder, how do you get your gear? You know, I mean, they shouldn't be selling weapons like everywhere. In a setting where that is extremely rare. But I'm sure there's some kind of justification for that. In my world, I would say small villages, not all of them have adventurers or heroes who are either from there or anything like that. However, large cities would have obviously more. I mean, at any given time, you might have up to 20 adventuring parties in an extremely large city. Now, these adventuring parties might be more of mercenaries than adventuring parties, um, but still almost the same thing. Um, and I think having, I've had players in my group come across other adventuring parties before in my world. I like the idea of having rival adventuring parties. I think that's a lot of fun, and it's. I think you need to be able to justify the economy, like when it comes to not economy, but you know if they're getting swords at a small village, well, why is the village stocked with an armory? That doesn't make sense. Now if they're having a blacksmith custom make things, that's different than if they just go in and, hey, they've got this sword and this and this and this, and you can just buy them all. Same thing for like healing potions and things like that. Healing potions, especially if you're playing like 5e, uh, it makes sense that in a world that can do that, that would be not necessarily common, but it would be found in a lot of places because, frankly, that's better than a med pack. you know, if you're sick or whatever, or you break your arm, you're gonna take a healing potion. Um, but you need to be able to make sense of it. Like a village of 50 people isn't going to have more than maybe 5 total, and they're just not going to have a lot, um think of like your if you've ever worked in a factory, how many, you know first aid kits do they have located throughout the factory, and think about how many people are there. If you're a factory of like 200 people, you have what, maybe 4 or 5 first aid kits. So I would think a ratio like that might work for healing potions in a village. For every like 50 people, you've got one first aid kit or healing potion. Um, I don't know. Maybe I'm far off base. I don't know. Maybe a profession like a miner might have more. Maybe they have, for every 10 workers, they have a healing potion or something. Or maybe each person has their own healing potion. Something like that. That might make sense too. If you're thinking like military, everyone in the military has their own like little first aid kit. So, just ideas like that. But Yeah, so in my world, it's small villages usually don't have adventures, but excuse me, but small villages will typically have like a retired adventurer. In fact, usually retired adventurers go to the small villages because it's a quieter life. Um, and most don't, in my world, don't retire until they just can't go anymore, until they can't really, you know, um, adventure to the level they once did. Doesn't mean they might come out of retirement for, you know, an offshoot here and there, but for the most part, they like to retire to peace and quiet and reflect on their past. That's typically what happens in my world. Old adventurers become eldermen in towns and villages, or even start their own. You know, they like I've had villages in my world pop up because adventurers retired. They brought people to be safe from their adventuring days. You know, whether it was people they had saved or worked with or whatever that needed to get away or whatever, and started a new village. The idea of Pine Run was started originally by a retired adventurer. Um, so again, stuff like that. I love it. I think it adds a lot to my setting. In fact, my setting is very, yeah, and I've talked about it before. It's focused around heroes and being heroic and epic. And so part of that story, even for my players, I want them to realize that the story doesn't end when the campaign ends. The story could go on, into like if it's an elf, it can go on hundreds of years later for that character, And I tend to ask my players if I'm ending a one shot or a campaign, what happens with your character? What do they do for the rest of their life? And I try to take what they say and weave it into my homebrew world. I like to do that. I've always liked doing that. So, and I'll continue to do that because I think it makes it fun. Like even for one shots, right? Like I've enjoyed playing some characters, and sometimes it just sucks that their story ends right at the end of that game. It's like, eh. But the idea of role playing it out, um, like, hey, what happened to them after that? I like that idea. I think it's a lot of fun to imagine what they would have done with the rest of their life. So, um, but yeah, so I would say, they're heroes and adventures are actually fairly common, but they're not like overly abundant. Um, there's competition in my world, but it's not like everywhere you go, here's an adventurer, you know. Um, the other thing is what do the adventurers do? Depending on their motivations, some might be seeking out artifacts, all right? Some might be seeking to get rid of evil. Some might be, archaeologists and trying to learn more about the world's history and stuff like that. So mix up. My tip in this video is if you're gonna have a lot of adventurers, try not to have a lot of overlap. Try not to have them all seeking the exact same stuff, because if you have 20 in a large city and they're all treasure hunters, well, you should be seeing 20 different adventuring parties in the surrounding caves seeking treasure. Large cities, you probably shouldn't have a lot of treasure located close to large cities because all those adventurers should have cleaned out all those caves. Um, and so maybe monster hunters are more located in large cities. Treasure hunters go to the far reaches of the world, to the small, obscure places that nobody goes, things like that. So, anyways, I'm gonna wrap it up here. We're at about 10 minutes, but that's all I would. I mean, I kind of talked about some other stuff with adventures in my world, but um, yeah, would love to hear what you guys think. How many adventures do you think is too much, too little? What is it? What are heroes and adventures like in your world? Do you have a lot of them? Do you have practically none? Such as Dragon Grin. Again, I'd love to hear about that in the comments below, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Again, This was my 30-day world, day 7, I believe. Day 6, day 7, one of those days. But yeah, next one is magic and how abundant is it in your world, I believe. So, anyways, that's it. I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.